Strategy Management Series. Video number 113 Strategy Formulation. Step 7 Strategy Evaluation. Resolving the Prisoner's Dilemma. Welcome back to the Ready MBA series on strategy management. In our previous sessions, we delved into strategy evaluation, the crucial seventh step of the strategy formulation process. This stage entails scrutinizing potential strategies for their impact, benefits, costs, and resource requirements. We also discussed game theory, a technique for predicting competitors' moves in a competitive situation, and how it can be used by the planning team to refine their strategic analysis. One of the primary benefits of game theory is its ability to help decision-makers anticipate the potential outcomes of different strategies and understand the ripple effects of their choices. This is especially valuable during strategy formulation and evaluation, as it allows planners to simulate various scenarios and assess the best course of action. We introduced the concept of simultaneous moves games, where players make decisions at the same time without knowing the other's moves. These games often involve creating a strategy that considers all possible outcomes based on each player's actions. To find the optimal strategy, planners look for a dominant strategy that consistently provides a better or equal outcome than all other strategies, regardless of what the opponent does. In some games, there are no dominant strategies where one strategy is always the best regardless of what the other player does. Instead, players must consider the potential choices of others and then determine their best response. This situation is defined as a Nash equilibrium. A Nash equilibrium is a concept in game theory where each player's strategy is the best response to the other player's strategy. It is a stable decision-making point. In such situations, players do not have any incentives to change their strategies in the light of their opponent's decision. However, these equilibria do not always guarantee the best outcome for either player. A prisoner's dilemma is a concept in game theory where two players independently make decisions, resulting in a suboptimal outcome when they act in their own self-interest. The dilemma illustrates a scenario where both players can achieve better results by cooperating but end up with worse outcomes because they act on their dominant strategies, expecting others to do the same. In their book Thinking Strategically, Avinash K. Dixit and Barry J. Nailbuff suggest that resolving the prisoner's dilemma requires understanding the coordination problem and exploring methods to shift from individual self-interest to collaborative strategies. Example of a prisoner's dilemma. Consider a game with two players, player A and player B. They each have two strategies: cooperate or defect. The following payoff matrix demonstrates the prisoner's dilemma. If both players cooperate, they each receive a payoff of 3. However, if one cooperates and the other defects, the defector gains 4 while the cooperator gains only 1. If both defect, they each get a payoff of 2. When comparing rows, we can notice that player A has a dominant strategy to defect, because payoffs are higher than if they choose to cooperate. Similarly, player B also has a dominant strategy to defect. For player B, payoffs for cooperating are lower than for defecting. Both players' dominant strategy is to defect, which they will adopt. However, this is a suboptimal outcome for both. If they chose to cooperate instead, they would have a better outcome. However, cooperation is not the best response to the other player's move, so they will not choose to execute it. To achieve such an outcome, trust and coordination between the rivals are required, and this is not easily achieved, generally leading both players to be worse off. The prisoner's dilemma illustrates that when players choose their dominant strategies, the resulting outcome is suboptimal for both, yielding lower payoffs than if they had cooperated. In the business context, prisoners' dilemmas may happen in various situations such as market entry, investment decisions, strategic partnerships, supply chain exclusivity, hiring top talent, litigations, among others. The coordination problem. This scenario represents a coordination problem where players could achieve better outcomes by collaborating instead of competing. However, cooperation is risky because players might be tempted to defect, given the immediate payoff benefits of doing so. The prisoner's dilemma often emerges in competitive situations where a short-term advantage might overshadow long-term gains from collaboration. Main points for coordination and collaboration. To resolve the prisoner's dilemma, Dixit and Nailbuff highlight several key considerations for achieving coordination and collaboration. 1. Communication. Open communication between players helps establish common goals and clarify expectations. It also allows players to discuss potential outcomes and agree on cooperative strategies. 2. Trust. Trust building is crucial for successful collaboration. Players must believe that the other party will uphold their end of the agreement and not cheat. 3. Incentives for cooperation. Creating incentives for cooperation helps encourage players to choose collaborative strategies. This can include positive reinforcement for cooperative behavior or mechanisms to share gains equitably. 4. Penalties for defection. Establishing penalties for defection deters players from breaking agreements. The penalties should be significant enough to outweigh the short-term gains of defection. 5. Reputation and credibility. Players with a reputation for maintaining agreements and credibility in their promises are more likely to succeed in cooperative endeavors. 6. Long-term perspective. Focusing on long-term benefits encourages players to adopt cooperative strategies, even if short-term incentives favor defection. Risks and preempting them. Risks associated with cooperation in a prisoner's dilemma context include the temptation to defect for short-term gain, trust erosion, and lack of enforcement mechanisms. To preempt these risks, players can take several steps. 1. Contractual agreements. Create formal agreements or contracts that outline the terms of collaboration and define consequences for defection. 2. Monitoring and enforcement. Implement monitoring systems to ensure compliance and establish mechanisms to enforce agreements. 3. Shared vision and goals. Align the player's vision and objectives to reinforce the collaborative spirit. 4. Incremental collaboration. Begin with small-scale collaboration to build trust and assess the reliability of other players before expanding cooperation. By focusing on these aspects, rivals in a prisoner's dilemma can move toward cooperation, improving outcomes for all parties involved. Using game theory concepts, they can make more strategic decisions that lead to optimal results, ultimately resolving the inherent dilemma. And this concludes our episode about resolving the prisoner's dilemma. Please join us in our next episode where we will continue our discussion about game theory. Until then, keep strategizing. See you soon.